Get started. So thank you all for coming to this webinar today. We have some important presentations, and I'm grateful to everybody who's attending. So just the agenda for today, I'll be giving brief update, and then Mr. Muhammad Garni will talk about the hospital survey and patient safety, and we would like all sides to participate in this very important part of the project. Then Ms. Nafasha, we're going to talk about the nursing experience in improving the care of mechanically ventilated patient in NASAM. And then we have Dr. Ahmed Al-Madi from King Saud Medical City. He will talk about what they're doing, a remarkable job there in the NASAM project. And Ahmed Qurashi from Prince Mohammed bin Abdulaziz Hospital in Medina. And then we'll have some discussion about VE forms. So as of today, we have 78 ICUs who expressed interest in participating in the NASAM project, which is wonderful, and we're very grateful to everybody who is part of the project. This is from 47 hospitals, 27 cities, so it's a massive project, and we need the help of everyone to pull this through. This is going to require a commitment, there's no doubt. So data entry so far, this slide shows the last few weeks since we started from January 1st in some of the ICUs. We removed the name of the ICUs because that's not relevant. And it shows week 1, week 2, etc. And in green are the data that is entered for these sites, and in red, not entered. And here's on the left is the last month. And you could see where wonderful contribution is from this month of February. This is NASAM data. So many sites have green boxes, which is good. But we have also sites that still did not enter their data. And so at least we have 35 ICUs enter data, which is good. But we're hopeful that all will enter data, because this is how we're going to make a difference for our patients. So I'm hoping that others have collected that on paper and they will enter it. It's not a very difficult task, but I think we really need to go all towards this goal. We'll be communicating with you, and we have been communicating with different sites about their data entry, and we're going to continue doing these quality checks. We've been doing this, right? Iman, Muhammad, and Cheryl, and Abdullah with different sites. And we would like to keep up with the data entry. So another critical part of this project is about reducing ventilator-associated events. So our goal is to improve the care of patients, and we're going to measure this improvement by looking at VAEs, by ventilator-associated events. We had some discussions about it. There is a recorded webinar on the website that people can return to it to see how to collect the VE, and we're going to have some discussion today about it. But we encourage all the sites to collect data. So we have good number of ICUs collected the NASAM parameters, but fewer collected VE. There are some who did a remarkable job. We have some sites who put the data for February, which is great. And there are many who did it for January. But our target is that to have all the ICUs enter for all months. I know some of the data has been submitted to our project managers, and we are looking at them. But we would like all this data be collected even retrospectively. It's important that we know what's the VE rate, and we get whether we are making an improvement or not. So VE include the VACs, ventilator-associated condition, IVAC, infectious related VACs, and probable VAP. So the three of them together will add up to what we call VE. So VAC plus IVAC plus PVAC equals VE. So that's important. When you enter the data, the number should add up. They should be making sense, because we face some data entry errors, which were, some of the numbers were not logic. So very important to make sure that the data is clinically meaningful to you. So now I think the next is Mr. Muhammad Girni going to talk about about culture survey that we plan to do, and the next you're going to tell us about the timeline. So part of this project is we are creating safety teams in each hospital who discuss ideas, and we are hoping to improve culture, right? So this is what we're going to measure it. We're going to measure it by doing culture survey. Muhammad?
Thank you, Dr. Arabi. So actually now we are at the stage of distributing the patient safety culture survey, and this will be conducted twice, at the beginning of this quarter, at this time, and after 2 years from now. So let's remind ourselves about the definition of the culture. I'll just talk briefly about it. So it is the way we do things around here, and what we do when we think no one is looking. It is the beliefs, values, norms shared by the healthcare staff. So culture is just like the iceberg. So what we see is only 10 to 15%, which is the behaviors, the systems, the processes, the policies. But most of it is hidden. You cannot see. That's why you need to measure it. So the behavior, the system, the processes, actually it's driven by the ideas, by the goals, by the underlying assumptions. So Peter Drucker, one of the pioneers in management, he stated that culture eats strategy for breakfast, which means that if you don't align your strategy with the culture, the chance of failure will be very high. So, and this happens at early stage, at breakfast, which means in early stages. Also, it comes from the idea that you cannot manage what you don't measure. So in order to manage, you need to measure. So while we do patient safety culture survey, first raise staff awareness about the patient safety. Second is to assess the current status of the patient safety culture. It is also to identify the strength, the areas for improvement, examine the trend. So we'll see the current score, and hopefully after 2 years, we'll see, inshallah, positive change. Also to evaluate the cultural impact of patient safety initiatives, and to conduct comparisons within and across organizations. And this will be available in the database later on. You can compare yourself across the facility units if you have multiple units participating in NASAM project, or across national level. Here we can see the organizations in terms of conducting, in terms of maturity in conducting or assessing the safety culture. So some hospitals has no measures of safety culture measurement, and this is now very rare. Most of the hospitals has some measures, and some measures are undertaken in some hospitals, but the problem is that there is no attempt to strengthen the safety culture. It is only the measurement. The next level, it is to measure the safety culture. It is widespread across the organization, but the improvement initiatives is just beginning or immature. And the high reliable organization, or the most mature organization or hospital, is when the measurement is part of the strategic matrix, and there is systematic improvement initiatives are undertaken. So now we'll go to the practical, more practical. Our tool is hospital survey of patient safety culture. It is taken from Agency for Healthcare Quality, and it is available on website. From this website, you can get more information about the safety culture and how to interpret it and how to deal with it. So the domains, we have 12 domains: communication openness, So the staff feel free to ask questions, to raise questions. It is about their feeling to communicate with their managers and their colleagues. The second one, feedback and communication about error. So when error happens in the unit, there is feedback. So they discuss about these errors, they act on it, they learn from it. So under each domain, we have like multiple items, hands off and transitions. So across the units and when shift changes, also the information is available and complete. So also we have some items related to this domain. Also we have items related to the management support for patient safety, non-punitive response to error, the concept of no blame culture. So the staff will not feel that the errors held against them and kept in their personal file. Also, organizational learning and continuous improvement, so that the patient safety initiatives led to positive changes. And also there is evaluation to the effectiveness of these initiatives. Manager expectation actions promoting patient safety and staffing. So also we have items related to the staffing. Do we have enough staff to handle the patients? Do we have enough working hours to deal with the patient and not to compromise the patient safety? Teamwork across units and within the units. Frequency of event reported. So there is questions. How many events you reported in the past 12 months? And then the overall perception of patient safety culture from your opinion to for your specific unit. So initially we'll have the list, and already we communicated with most of the hospitals that we need a list of emails for all staff working in the ICU. Clinical work, not administrative work. Clinical work, dealing with the patient. There is like direct contact with the patient, also indirect contact, but their job to deal with the patient and to take care of the patient. So those are eligible for the survey, and we need them. We need the staff who work in that specific unit that participating in the survey. Physicians, RTs, physiotherapists, pharmacists, any staff who work with the patient directly or indirectly. So you will receive this email from NASAM, and you need to click on this link, survey, and then it will take you to this website. And here is very important, and it is required to enter the work area token number, and this one will give it to you. So each specific ICU has specific token number. It is 9 digits in the beginning of the survey, and then you can continue answering the questions. It is Likert scale from strongly agree to strongly disagree. So after we distribute the survey, we'll keep monitoring the responses. Our target, it is 100%. Our target is 100%. And 60% is the minimum to say that this results is representative for that unit. And less than 40%, actually, it's not really representative. So we'll try to avoid that. So we'll keep the follow-up, and you keep encourage your staff to participate more in the survey. After we get the results and we close the survey, we'll provide you with the response rate, the overall culture score, and the domain score for each domain, and the highest and lowest scoring items, and the facility score if you have more than one, and this is for the senior level managers. If you have like many ICUs in one organization, and the most improved and declined units, this will happen in the next stage, in the next survey, after we see the trend. The qualitative comment is also very important. We'll do analysis for it, and we'll create themes for it, and we can focus on the highest themes. It is very important to remember that This one is a snapshot of respondents' perception at one point in time. And it's generate more questions than it provides answers. It identified issues for further exploration and attention, but it does not explain them. Identifies opportunities for improvement. So after you get your results, you will look at the lower items and you can act on it. You can, one of the ideas is to meet your staff, the frontline staff, without management so they can speak up freely about their issues. And you can do your improvement initiatives based on these scores. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, please.
Thank you, Mohammed. This is really very important. So we're going to be measuring culture. So this is the idea of this survey is to measure the culture in each unit. So a few points that I like to highlight. There's no, this information will remain de-identified. So we're not going to say this unit is different from this unit. There's no, we're going to talk about the whole, all of us as one system. And the information for particular unit will be given only to that unit, Otherwise, we're just looking at the whole system of the ICUs together. Agree, ma'am? Yeah. The second issue is very important that we would like participation of minimum 60% of the staff for each unit. Otherwise, it's not meaningful. So really, the units that have less than 60% will not be counted in this. So, because the information would be so biased towards. So we would like to have more participation. Any other comments on this? I'm going to mute also just to reduce the noise. Any other questions? Any other point, Hamad? So timeline, when you're going to send this one?
After we get the email, so hopefully within 2 weeks.
So the status now, how many units send their emails?
We need to also verify to make sure that the list is the response rate will be dependent on the
units. How many units have sent already?
Maybe for me, my list maybe 60.
No. What sent you? Shahid? So we have maybe around 60–70% of all units have sent their emails, which is excellent. But I think we will encourage the leaders, the nurses, physicians, when they get the emails, to encourage the staff to fill this. It doesn't take much time. We've done this in our hospital many times. So it's very straightforward. But it really gives a good information about the culture survey, safety. What we are doing really in the NASAM project is really state-of-the-art, cutting-edge patient safety science. So I'm really pleased that everybody is participating and helping in this project. Next, I think, what's next? Navasha will present the nursing perspective and the contribution of nursing in NASAM. So I'll ask Navasha to come and present.
I don't see it here. Good day, everybody. My name is Navasha Singh. I'm the nursing representative for the NASAM project. Okay. Okay. So basically, my topic here is called the nursing perspective. This is basically the collaboration of the nurses involved in the NASAM project. So what does NASAM and what has it meant for nursing since the initiation? We've noticed that when I introduced the topic to all the nurses initially, they had different feelings. Upon some discussion with them, we noted that nurses felt, because they're at the front line, especially critical care nurses, they felt that they're going to have more workload, especially when it comes to data entry. They were anxious because they were not trained on how to do the data entry, which we then resolved by teaching them how to use the NASAM forms and what was being looked for. They were uncertain what the process was. They were also uncertain what our objectives were. So whenever you talk to them and you ask them, so what is NASAM about? If you ask any random nurse in critical care, they're like, no, it's Dr. Arabi's project. We are involved. We're not sure why we've been asked to do these forms. We do have our own quality groups. So going forward, we decided to change these perceptions, but obviously with the help of the other nurse managers. So basically we said that because this is not just a nursing project or not just a physician project, it's a team project, we all need to ensure that the teamwork starts and continues from the beginning to the end and beyond completion of the project. Meaning there has to constantly be nursing engagement. After speaking to Mr. John Elton, who is my DCN, he mentioned that during the CASP project, there were some issues. I wasn't here at the time where the nurses didn't feel engaged. And towards the ending, they were involved. But because it was so late in the project, the latent phase, they felt that they couldn't add any value. Therefore, I say the initiation, which is what NASAM has done, we've involved nurses from beyond the first step, even when we trialed it here, which was good. We've involved them right now. Whenever we've had challenges and issues and we needed to address them, we've been asking them for their constant engagement and feedback. And I also say beyond. So even beyond completion of NASAM, because we're trying to attain some objectives, we need their feedback consistently. I do understand that when it comes to data integrity, nurses can feel like we just have to enter the data. The important thing when entering data, there has to be integrity. Otherwise, none of this is going to be of any value to us. The issue, I think, is having them commit to it. I know that not all hospitals or institutions at this stage have the cutting edge technology, or from what I do know, desktops at every bedside. So we need to consider aspects that will address those hospitals, those shortfalls, where nurses will find it easier to capture data, maybe not with just one desktop, which is what some of the hospitals are using at the moment. We need to also share our knowledge. Knowledge sharing and education is vitally important. And I say this because not only our hospitals share knowledge between us and the practices and the approaches for NASAM, but hospitals need to gather feedback and share their knowledge. The nursing managers, the nursing DCNs of other institutions need to contact our DCNs, need to contact me, need to email me and say to me, Navasha, I'm having this issue. I'm not getting the data. These are the reasons I'm not getting the data. Can you share the knowledge with me? This is the challenge I've been having. This is why. And by doing that, I think that the data processing, the data collection, the data entry can go farther. It can become more reliable. I also think we need to encourage innovative thinking, especially when it comes to the hospitals that don't have the technology that we do. We need to think of ways where it will be easier for one representative to collect the data, enter the data, and maybe have a feedback mechanism in that aspect. I do think that NASAM can achieve and the value that it's looking for, because it is going to help reduce the intensive care unit stay, which is what all nurses are looking for. Because right at the moment, they're mentally inclined to think that having a patient on a vent for 20 days is normal and acceptable. And that's something that we all are trying to change. And this is probably a way of getting them to commit to the project so much more. It is going to reduce ventilator-associated events if it is done properly and thoroughly. It can enhance autonomy in nurses through collaborative decision-making. And I say this because at this time, when a nurse has to be included in the doctor's round, you will notice she'll come on shift, she'll do her assessment and so forth. The doctors will come on and the RTs will come in, and they would then make a decision on whether the patient should be weaned or the patient should be extubated. And no matter what the nurse tends to say, she's nursing the patient, it isn't always taken heed. And not all by all physicians, but it is taken seriously by some physicians. So nurses don't feel like they have a say in the patient care at this moment. They'll say, if I need to wean, I need to call the doctor. If I need to extubate, and I'm saying that maybe the patient is ready, I'm not always being taken seriously. I do think that NASAM can enhance this, can enhance their autonomy and make them feel like they are valued, that their decisions, their contributions to patients like this will be more valued. We do look at reducing medical costs and financial burdens, especially for the increasing population of Saudi Arabia at the moment. And when it comes to such events like this, it basically is going to reduce the medical costs. Innovative approaches to caring for patients, which is what NASAM is now looking for. I think when it comes to aspects of nursing at this time, we need to adopt other approaches, other challenges and things from the other hospitals to see what works for each other. And yes, we are going to standardize the approach of ventilated patients, and that's the whole objective of this project. It's going to relieve anxiety and a lot of confusion, because at the moment, whether you go from ICU 2 in National Guard to TICU, people are not very clear about the standard of weaning a patient. They'll say They'll maybe have one aspect in TICU because their patient profile is different. If you go to ICU2, you may hear a completely different version. By doing this and getting the data and looking for quality improvement methods, this will then address that shortfall. The current approaches that we are using in National Guard, as I said, we are now knowledge sharing. The current approaches that we're using in this hospital are calendar invites. I did speak to a few nurse managers. The nurse manager from TICU had said to me that she is sending out calendar invites to her charge nurses. So she has set aside 2 days, Monday and Wednesday of the week, where she collects the data. She sends out the emails to the charge nurses solely because charge nurses are obligated to check their emails every morning. And in doing so, she then ensures that the charge nurses remind the bedside nurses to then collect the data. She hasn't had any issues so far. Her data has been on target. I've looked at her data and her statistics, and it's been fantastic. I think in ICU2, they have something called a VAP dedicated team. In National Guard, while in CUMSI, we have our own substandard quality groups in each department. And one of those groups are the VAP team. So ICU2 here has used their VAP team, and they've set the schedule so that each of those members, whether it's 1 or 3 of them are on the days they collect data, they are there and they know that they will collect the data and enter it at the same time they've collected it. Like I said, some other departments here are only using the charge nurses to collect the data. I think that is an advantage, but I also think it's a shortfall. The charge nurses here have a lot to do. They are allocated to a lot of responsibility during the day. So what happens is the charge nurses tend to collect the data and then they tend to enter it the next day. And I think that's where we are having issues with, and we need to reach out to the other hospitals to see what you guys are doing as well. The downtime contingency plans are, I found out, during downtime, when our systems are down and things, the nurses here, while some of them felt that they should not enter the data because the system was down. So we've now discussed it and we found that, you know what, all you need to do is print out the hard copies like we did when we trialed the project, and then going forward, just collect your data on the day and have the person that was meant to enter the data just enter it in. So now I'm reaching out to the other hospitals. If y'all could email me and let me know what approaches you guys are using so that we could share the knowledge. The future looks bright. I do think only if nurses and other healthcare providers remain constantly engaged throughout the project. I do also think that upon, I think I had attended an executive nursing meeting a few days ago, and the one thing that was very prevalent in that meeting was the nurse managers constantly requesting a quarterly feedback report. Iman and I have discussed this, and I know that they are working on it. And I do believe that nurses feel if something's evidence-based, they're going to be far more committed to it than anything else. So we need to ensure that whether they are able to access a quarterly report on the web of NASAM or have a hard copy, they need to have some feedback showing that they are improving or they're declining if they're stagnating. That's important. I do think that we need to campaign to gain involvement and suggestions and more buy-ins. When I say campaigning, not just campaigning at CUMSI, I think we need to do campaigns and booths at various other hospitals as well, so that those nurses, like I said, when you go to them, you ask them, or even the RTs, what is NASAM about? They understand. They could share that knowledge with the juniors that are coming into the hospital, because at the moment, we have a lot of new staff that are being recruited into the institution. And not everybody has the time to orientate every person to exactly the projects that, that are taking place. So a lot of the nurses have asked me this. When I've been there to check on what's happening with NASAM, they've asked me, so what's in it for me? We need to seek ways to reward the frontline, I think, so that they feel valued for their contribution, time, and effort. I do know at the stage when Dr. Arbi had sent out the seminars, he said that a lot of people that have attended that would then earn CME points. But I do think there has to be some other perspective where they feel valued and rewarded, because they still believe that it's extra work that they should not be doing. What are they gaining from this? I believe at the end, coming together is the beginning. And like I said, keeping together is progress. Working together is success. And that is what teamwork is all about. Thank you. Do you have any questions? Okay. Thanks.
Hello, good afternoon. Now we would like to welcome Dr. Madi, Ahmed Madi from King Saud Medical City. Can you unmute yourself, Dr. Madi? Can you hear me?
Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Assalamu alaikum.
Dr. Ahmed, assalamu alaikum.
Dr. Yasin, alaikum assalam. أهلا بيك في حالك.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you very much for your help. You've been great with projects like all other projects.
الله
Dr. Madi,
يخليك.
I'll give you the control so that you can move the slides.
Okay.
What is your,
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Actually, thank you, Dr. Yasin, so much for considering us in this a very actually eminent project. Thank you, Iman, for your very good and continuous organization with us. Really, we are in touch with you, with all our teams. I'd like to actually present our experience over the last 2 months, January and February, and actually started from attending the workshop before. I have the team of our ICU with me. Everyone will present his own perspective from the experience with the data collection for every division. And of course, we have some challenges and difficulties, and we have some solution for that, and we have some queries we need to discuss with the team. So I'd like to start actually with, how can I move the slides? Yes, okay. The outlines, I'll just go with how we did organize the team for the NASAM project in our King Saud Medical City ICU, and what is the processing for data collection from the NASAM bundle, from the early mobility bundle, and ventilator-associated events data collection, as well as our plan for educational program, which is designed specifically for NASAM to have a better outcome later on, inshallah. At the same time, I will just have one slide about how many patient days we have in over the last 2 months. So the first one I will go with actually with our team. Actually, I have to thank Dr. Zuhair Asiri and Dr. Yasin for involving us, as well as the chairman of the ICU, Dr. Rahman Al-Harthi. As always mentioned by all the teams, the leadership have very, very productive influence if they are cooperative and well known about they are facilitating many things actually and many challenges in our ICU. As you know, we have a huge ICU. We have almost 129 beds, so we need to have a dedicated team, which is everyone assigned for his part in the NASAM project. I'd like to present first. I'm the team leader in the NASAM project in our KSMC. My colleague Dr. Shahzad, our ICU consultant, he was the head of early mobilization project in our ICU before. Dr. Muhammad Adam, he's one from the medical liaison office in our ICU, is working as administrative coordinators, facilitating the process with other departments outside and with even Iman with the organization and inside ICU. Dr. Bashir Abdurrahman is our education coordinator. Me and him, we are the owner of our sedation policy, so we are as educational part. Dr. Tasmiyah Asad, she's assistant consultant, and she's assigned actually for infection control inside our ICU division. She's responsible for that. With Mr. Hassan Abdullah, he's from infection control department, and actually he's assigned as a coordinator in our ICU. Mr. Dawood Asad have a huge part in our ICU because he's a clinical nursing manager. He's the one dealing with the nurses and the data collection and everything. Mr. Amal Asmari is from respiratory department, and at the end, our ICU quality manager. We have a team inside our ICU for quality. Dr. Reid Tharwat is the head of this team, and he's assigned for us to be with the outcome in the project. So everyone will give hint about his part, but I just like to have some sort of introduction. As you know, we have 5 ICUs. This is a designed ICU for the NASAM project. The first one is trauma ICU. We labeled it ICU 1. It is 41 beds. And we have, from the members of the NASAM group, we have in charge for every allocated area in ICU. For example, Dr. Tasmiyah, she's allocated as in charge for NASAM in the trauma ICU. In the medical ICU, which is 24 beds, Ms. Chetra, she was attending with us the workshop happened there. And actually the surgical ICU, another 24 beds with Mr. Hassan, he's in charge of NASAM in this area. Neuro ICU, we have 16 beds with Dr. Bashir Abdurrahman. And respiratory ICU, which is ICU 5 in isolation for airborne, we have 9 beds. Dr. Reid assigned to be in charge. So we have in every ICU in charge for that. Exactly, the nurse-patient ratio usually 1:1, apart from maybe 30 to 40%, we have time of 1 to 2. The respiratory therapist patient ratio range between 1 to 8 to 10 patients as RT. Really, I will not go more in details. I will keep but before I will go for the other, so you can move next, please. you can move, yeah. First, I'd like to, as I mentioned, the leadership is very important part in the running the project. Dr. Zuhair actually had a good influence on that when he sent actually for our CMO and the CEO. We have some difficulties at the beginning, but he sent an official letter to them. Of course, Dr. Rahman Harthi went from the steering committee of the projects, and he's the medical director of the hospital. So those actually really facilitate the work in the projects. We did start actually after workshop for awareness for all ICU consultants. We have ICU 16 consultants in our ICU, as I did for him, like presentations to give them awareness about the ICU, about the NASAM project, and all of them are very willing to facilitate and to share their part in the NASAM project. And the NASAM meetings with the member of the NASAMs, actually we have regular meeting, monthly we have meeting with the director, and maybe every 2 weeks we have a regular meeting with webinars, all of us attending the webinars, all the webinar before we did attend before. So we are updating, we are just solving the problem. So I will keep now Mr. Dawood to give you his experience for data collection with the nursing staff. Mr. Dawood Asad.
Yeah, good afternoon. First of all, thanks Dr. Madi for to give me this chance, and Dr. Yassin. For our NASAM data collection challenges, they have a lot of challenges that facing during our NASAM, because they have a huge number of pets. The data collecting already will be done by using hard and soft copy of NASAM bundle tool. And they did this one twice per week, Monday and Wednesday, as instruction when they attend the course before starting of NASAM. And there is this one in front of you. This is the ICU NASAM data as a hard copy. And this one for the NASAM data. And they have another one, the second slides is the data collections for the early mobility. And after that, they will transfer this data to be in the system. Sometime if the system is working well, as you know, the system is hardly or very slow for data collections. They're using this one to minimize the wasting of time. And then after that, the second slide, we'll see our nursing staff who's responsible for collecting the hard copy or collecting data, even hard copy or soft. They have in the 5 ICUs. The ICU one is trauma ICU. This one responsibility for Ms. Shitra and Kartika. The ICU number 2 is the medical ICU T1A1, responsible Mr. Louis. T1B1, this one is surgical, responsible for Ms. Nisha and Buma. The neuro ICU, responsibility for Ms. Karen. And the isolation, respiratory isolation, responsible for the Blissy. These 5, the one responsible to collecting data twice time per week. Next, please. What they have challenges during our data collections, lack of the endotracheal tube with subglottic suctioning. They hiring these challenges to our chairman, Dr. Abdulrahman, and he sent a memo for ER and OR or the admitted units to the ICU to use a subglottic tube when they intubate the patient to avoid rechange the tubes. They have a lack of computers in the unit that using to enter the data directly. They provide individual laptop to each unit. They have 5 areas. They provide us 5 laptops to enter data directly without using the hard copy, will be soft copy directly. They have demanding in the high-speed internet. They're using sometime if there is any technical problem in the internet, they're using a hard copy as collecting data, then after that entered on the system. For deleting data for wrong entry, time consuming, yeah. Last time they informed Ms. Iman from National Guard, and she's coordinate with the IT department to delete some wrong data that entered by mistakes. And they have some of our nurses, they have a lack of knowledge among the newly implementation project in the units. And there is an explaining from Dr. Madi and Dr. Bashir for have a plan to be on a bedside teaching improve staff knowledge about NASAM. And this one already reflecting on the patient quality of care. Data entry screen is not sometimes not bright background, and items books are not in color. And informed Iman about this one. That's meaning if sometime, for example, sedation not available, some items must be blocked automatically. Okay, next. Now,
yeah, the most difficult part in the NASAM project is the ventilator-associated events, and we are lucky enough to have the very well organized infection control department responsible of all the city, plus our infection control division inside our ICU. I'd like actually to give the chance for Mr. Hassan, coordinator of the infection control department, is assigned for ICU specifically. He will talk about the ventilator-associated event and his experience about that.
Okay, good afternoon. First of all, VAB was our nightmares as infection control. So I would like to thank all the team working in this VE bundle to improve, and as much as it is concern of KSA, that will help us to be more objective. You know, as infection control, when we were working on VAB, it was difficult time for us to decide. There's a lot of dilemma, but we came to solve this issue. So nowadays, we talking about some measurable objective items that no two people can say this is back or not back. So this is straightforward. You can take decision. It is the best, really the best CDC definition you can follow objectively. All people can say the same statement for any patient because it is universal. For that, when NASAM project came, we were already using VE, but NASAM supported us as much as it is vision from the KSA, as much as it is supported by high administration, Dr. Zuhair Asiri, Dr. Haith now with us, and all the Dr. Yasin Arabi and all the team, plus our administration from infection control, Dr. Hala Amir. So all the team work to supporting this VE. Basically, we try to modify our work to fill the requirement of NASAM because NASAM meticulous for targeted area by area. So we modify to make it their area wise. And I really appreciate all the work and all effort from all the team. So this is our form, which we are using right now. So thank you.
The second part, actually, earlier, almost 2 years back, we started our early mobility project, which is headed by Dr. Shahzad, our ICU consultant, our Dr. Shahzad Ahmed. So, fortunately, came NASAM to touch this part. So, Dr. Shahzad, he'd like actually to present, even we have some published data about that, is the early mobility bundle with the NASAM. Dr. Shahzad, welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Mahdi and Dr. Abdurrahman, and Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Yasin. So as Dr. Mahdi is telling, February 2017, I was appointed in the department as a head of early mobilization project for the critically ill patients, and we put as a performance improvement project in KSMC. So it was going on, and some culture change was there since 1.5 years, then some nursing education, some physicians awareness was there for the mobilizing the patient. But we were more concentrating about the patients who were intubated, ventilated, and how we can mobilize the patient. It was a great fun in the ICU. We dealt with the infection control to mobilize the patient with endotracheal tube. Once a NASAM came in February 2019, actually I rather say January, because February 2019, Dr. Abdurrahman and Dr. Mahdi incorporated my project with dominating NASAM project to be replaced with NASAM. So when I studied the NASAM, no doubt it was a brilliant idea and brilliant workshops that to deal the patient with endotracheal tube or without endotracheal tube, how we can mobilize all the patients. So in this way, our prospect become a wide prospect was there. So once we started to participate in it, so we studied this one, though as Dr. Mahdi is telling that our MOKIP project, and we were having some research, almost in 2 years, we mobilized more than 100 patients with tube or without tube, and we were having some research data as well, which was published. So now we're coming to the NASAM, that level 1 care was almost can be dealt with all of the patients in our ICU with the involving the exclusion criteria of those patients who cannot be mobilized. And most of the time when we started in the February, we will see in the next slides that there was a difference in the mobilization. Most of the slides will see the level 1 care was accomplished, level 2 care was partially met, and still we are working upon the level 3 and 4. Next slide. Can we move to the next slide?
I think you are in control of the slides, so you can advance the slides.
We are trying. No.
No, sir.
Slides, how to advance? They are in control of the slides, right? You are?
Put it here.
Can you move, Iman, please?
I mean, actually, I put this picture, the previous pictures, if we say that more than I can say, the pictures explain that how we were mobilizing the patient since 2 years. Next slide, please. So I will.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
This is really remarkable.
Thank you, sir. This was the ventilated, non-ventilated patients. Now I will just start that over the 2 months. I'm starting from February, and it was around mid of the February. We'll start with the trauma ICU. If you see here, trauma ICU is our screening unit. Most of the patients from emergency department are coming to the trauma ICU. It is 41 bedded, as Dr. Mahdi says. So if we see the patients of distribution of highest level of mobility with non-intubated patients, our level of care was good. Even we were mobilizing the patient up to the level 3 or 4. Though it was a little number, but level 2 care was very prominent. It was around 56 to 59% was there. And it increased in the month of March, which was 59.46. It was the level 2 care which we incorporated. As we move to the next slide, it will explain us for the medical ICU. Medical ICU is our patient which are transferred from either from the FACS or patients coming from the trauma ICU with some cohorting reasons. So here we see in the month of February, we were very low number achieving the level 1. But once we were moving to level 3 and it was distributed between the intubated and non-intubated patients, our compliance, awareness, and culture was allowing the non-intubated patients more towards the mobilization, and we were achieving a higher levels of care as compared to the intubated patients. That we will discuss in the last slide as well. Next slide. So this is the same medical ICU, the month of February and March, that our level of care, level 2 and 3, was increased as compared to the month of February, which was in 17%, which raised to 17 or 18% in the month of March, level 2 care. Next slide. We are moving towards the surgical ICU. Surgical ICU, basically a beds of 24 patients. The problem is these are our chronic patients, post-tracheostomized, spinal fixations, or those patients who are coming into the exclusional criteria. So these areas usually covering there, where is the mobilization is at the minimal base. Next slide. This is a neurocritical care ICU. Neurocritical care ICU also, behaving in this way that the mobilization of level 1 care is there, level 2 with the change of posture. But once we move towards the sitting at the edge of the bed, it's minimal. Otherwise, prom service is almost there in these patients. Because almost TBI, sedated, most of the time paralyzed, ICPs, more and more devices. So that was a less numbers here, which was not mobilized. Next slide. Next slide is the respiratory ICU. This is my last slide to show the data. Here we have some problem that non-intubated patients, because these are the isolation rooms, 9 beds, 9 rooms, mostly corona or H1N area, or with multiple Acinetobacter, MDRO. So here the mobilization with the intubated patients is very minimal, while the non-intubated patients, we are trying to mobilize them inside the room because they have the attached bathroom as well, and some 1 or 2 health co-workers are going there. The next will come, most likely it will be my last slide. So what were the challenges and barriers since 2 months? So if I see the challenges, since I am handling the project of AMOKIP, or now the NASAM project, we have a shortage of physiotherapists along with the occupational therapists. We're very minimum number out of this 120 patients. we have 5 or 6, including physio plus occupational therapists. We have to have a culture change, awareness in between the staff nurses, between the doctors. And for this reason, we need educational plans for this patient. We have a real problem of isolation patients, that how we can mobilize the isolation patients when we have an issue of viral pneumonia, exclusion is there. We were having some solutions with the chairman ICU. So there is some request and availability of occupational therapists within next coming 2 months. We have a good recruitment of the staff nurses, which will come in the next 1 or 2 months. And there is a plan to include 7 to 8 nurses specifically for the training of early mobilization. And this way, we are also having a communicational group now, that how to have the data registry for all those patients who are being mobilized from level 1 till the mobilization on his own. Equipments were lacking. I mean, we were having the portable ventilators, but the wheelchair, some lifters we were not having. It's being ordered. Hopefully, we will get it soon. Our future plan is regarding the early mobilization, that we educate the newly coming staff and the staff who is present there to have a culture change inside the department, that how we can go with the safety of the patients to mobilize. And we will try to build a team. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Shahzad. Actually, when we have the first workshop, we have the first meeting here for the NASAM group in our KSMC, we had a plan to make like a phases. The first one, collecting data in the first 2 months. The second one, we said we'll have to start our educational plan, and what we have to do to improve the compliance with the NASAM projects, as well as others items. So I'd like actually to present Dr. Tasmia. We have some educational plans. Some of them done, some of them still planning. Dr. Tasmia is the ICU specialist with us and infection control. She will just present the educational plan.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, I'm Dr. Tasmia, and I would like to thank you for this opportunity for sharing my experience with you. So this was our team who actually visited the NASAM, and it all started from there. So yes, we started off with giving educational awareness lectures. As you can see, Dr. Bashir giving the lecture to all our physicians regarding sedation and delirium protocols. We had Dr. Mahdi actually from our side as a consultant champion also giving lectures, especially concerning physicians, the consultants, and spreading awareness about this. We also had Mr. Dawood from the nursing side, who's our nursing supervisor, and Ms. Chitra, who was responsible for the nurses' education part of it.
Next, please.
So we thought we would use education as a most powerful tool to change the culture and also to bring about awareness among people. So we started with a multidisciplinary and a coordinated approach. Of course, we designated all our team members with tasks and roles, whereby we had Dr. Mahdi and Dr. Bashir taking care of the sedation, Dr. Shahzad, our consultant champion for the mobility, me and Mr. Hassan for the VAE, Mr. Dawood and Sister Chitra with other clinical instructors for the nursing education part of it. Then we had the respiratory therapists, the educators for spontaneous awakening trial and spontaneous breathing trial, and also the subglottic suction tubes. Next slide, please.
Next, please, Iman. Yes.
So our NASAM education plan was basically consisted of educating all our healthcare providers. As you see, we have a huge mass of physicians.
Next slide.
Yes, physicians, nurses, respiratory therapists. So this included the education regarding proven methodologies to reduce the risk of ventilator-associated events. The education also included daily screen of patients for analgesia, sedation, and delirium protocol, the screen of respiratory function for spontaneous assessment and spontaneous breathing trial, timely physical and occupational therapy evaluation of patients for early mobilization. Next slide, please.
There's not the next slide, Iman. Hello. Assalamu alaikum. We have more 2 slides, I think.
This is the host. Yes. We signed in again.
السلام عليكم.
What is mute? See down.
لا. This is this one. We are the.
I think you are exchanging, replacing. Yes.
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 Good.
Thank you.
Okay, next slide, please.
Last minute. Next slide, please.
Let me just change the slide.
You have the slides now, Dr. Ahmed. Can you see it?
Last one, and I think next one.
Okay, next. Okay. Next. What button? Yeah.
Yes.
This one?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Doc.
Okay, we also started with in-service education regarding the VAE best practices. We had already protocols which were in action. We had the delirium, the sedation protocol, the SAT, the spontaneous breathing trial. All these protocols were further reinforced, and we introduced checklists to facilitate the project. We intend to have a weekly VAE round to look into the compliance of all the interventions, and also a monthly NASAM grand round focusing on especially the barriers in the implementation of the interventions. We also include the ABCD bundle interventions in the multidisciplinary VAE rounds and also the charge rounds. So earlier we had a very compact bundle. As you know, we had just a very few components, but we would like to extend it into the ABCD bundle for our further education part of it. This is the next slide. Yeah. So this is the checklist, which includes all the interventions required for the implementation or for the prevention of VAE. And we intend to include this to get an approval by the quality and to be included in the medical records of all patients for implementation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Actually, Dr. Bashir, do you know Dr. Yassin? Dr. Yassin is a representative from Ministry of Health, and you are lucky that he's one of us. He's happy to present this slide, actually.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Ramadi, and for all NASAM team here in KSMC, and thank you very much for Dr. Yassin, National Guard, Iman, and everyone gave me this opportunity. The last slide, just for motivation, I think we are doing a great job, and we are going ahead with the number of patient days. So I did this slide just to show you. It's a huge ICU we have, alhamdulillah, and we are doing a great job. And with time, we can see that the culture and awareness are changing continuously and improving, as Dr. Shahzad mentioned with time. So you can see here we have 5 ICUs, and we have 2 patient days according to NASAM bundle and early mobility. Early mobility, we started actually to enter data since February, almost February. So you can see we have for NASAM bundle almost 1,800 total patient days as a total patient days, and for the patient for early mobility patient days, it's around 1,100. And I would like to thank all our team. They are doing a great job, and that's the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Yassin. Thank you, Iman. Thank you all attending with us. Got any queries, any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed and the team at King Saud Medical City. This is a really remarkable job, what you're doing. So very organized, well-defined teams who have responsibility on the management, and you are using data to drive change. It's really amazing work. So really, we're grateful and thankful for you to be part of the NASAM. And I think this is the idea of the project is that we share experiences, and I think we all will learn from each other. This is really what you presented, something to be proud of. This is really a remarkable work. I may suggest also that you could write a little bit of maybe a few paragraphs about your experience. We can put it on the website of NASAM. So everybody look at what you've done. This will be good for sharing the knowledge, because we really want to use the experience of the centers that are ahead, like what you are doing is really excellent. And so the other look at it and use it as a role model. It's remarkable. These are my thoughts. Any other comments?
Thank you, Dr. Yassine, so much for that. And we will expecting actually the graphs, the data actually is encouraging, and inshallah by the end and after educational plan, we hope to come to the be optimal. I think inshallah, bismillah. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. This is great. Yeah, I think you're going to make big difference because you are so well organized. I think it's going to show in a good improvement, inshallah.
Thank you.
I think for interest of time, we try to keep this meeting on time, so we are on our 3 o'clock already. This is an excellent exchange of experiences. In the webinar time, we'll reschedule the presentation from Medina for next time and see if other sites want to talk about their experience. And for sites who have not sent their email addresses, we'll follow up on this, and we would like to send the culture survey. You're probably going to score very well, Dr. Ahmad, on the survey, because I mean, when you are structured, you have a structured group who are addressing the issues. I think hopefully we'll get good response from your site as well. But we would like to have at the national level, high level of responses. So minimum 60%. Muhammad saying we need to get 100%. So our goal is 100%, right? 100%. Okay, good. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.